Here's an attention getter for you. Rez! What's going on? It's so pretty, that music. Am I at a rave? Nope, it's Rez, one of my favorite PlayStation 2 games. And I, by the way, am Andy. Rez was released for the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2 on November 22nd, 2001 in Japan. Europe got both versions in January and February the following year, but here in the United States, we only got the PlayStation 2 version on January 7th of 2002. Years later, in January 2008, an HD version was released on Xbox Live Arcade. The bulk of the footage you'll see here in my video is captured using the PlayStation 2 version. No matter which of the three versions you play, the game looks fantastic, but my capture hardware doesn't really do it justice. Rez is a game developed by United Game Artists, a development studio at Sega known at the time for Space Channel 5. A lot of the staff at United Game Artists had previously worked on Sega's Panzer Dragoon franchise, another much-lauded Sega rail shooter. In Rez, you play an unnamed computer hacker who has entered a super network known as Project K. Once inside, you have to battle your way through computer virus and firewalls alike in order to determine the location of and then find an AI called Eden. The amount of data and knowledge in Project K has given Eden a level of self-awareness, causing an existential crisis which has led Eden to doubt it/her existence, entering a sort of shutdown sequence that has the potential to cause major problems in the real world. It really only takes one glance at Rez to see that it's not a typical looking game. The wireframe graphics are something unusual for 2001 and 2002 games. The look of the game is inspired by the works of Russian artist Wasily Kandinsky, considered the first abstract painter. Individual levels also have their own visual motifs, like Egyptian, Chinese, etc. The look of Rez, while wonderful, isn't the game's only strength, though. You have to mention the music. Everything in the game is designed to contribute to the overall track of each level. Another quirk that sets Rez apart is the lack of typical sound effects or dialogue. All the sound design is devoted to the music and your interaction with it. Lock-ons, hits, upgrades, everything has sound effects specific to the level and track. The deliberate pairing of sound and sights are not only because it's neato, though. On the back of the PS2 case, in big letters along the top, it says, "Go to Synaesthesia." Well, I don't know how you go to it or where it is, but I'll tell you what I can about what it is. Wikipedia says it is a neurological phenomenon in which stimulation of one sensory or cognitive pathway leads to automatic, involuntary experiences in a second sensory or cognitive pathway. Examples are something like every time you hear a certain sound, you have the sensation of seeing a specific color or maybe feeling a certain way, hot or cold, for instance. There are several different kinds of synesthesia. Some of them are involuntary, but some media, like Rez, attempt to incite it in its observers. A common way to put synesthesia is union of the senses. When one sense is stimulated, another also is. If you don't fully understand, don't worry about it. It can take a lot of reading to fully understand synesthesia. I set out to educate myself on it so I could talk about it during this video, and soon discovered I could do a whole video just on synesthesia. You could do a series of videos on some of this stuff. It's really interesting. Some people already have, so if it sounds interesting to you, give it a search on YouTube or Google and find out for yourself. So Rez has got the trippy visuals, the captivating sound design, but there is one more sense it seeks to employ when you play. Feel. The DualShock 2 or your 360 controller pulse in your hands to the beat of the music, and it's not a puny rumble either, it's thumping. It's a pretty cool addition. You wouldn't expect it to add much to the game, but I sure like it. Now, speaking of the sensation of feel from Rez, there's another peripheral offered only in Japan, which has gathered a level of internet infamy. Chances are there are a lot of folks who know only about Rez because of the trance vibrator. The special package that included the game and the trance vibrator in Japan states you can hold it, put it in your pocket, or sit on it while you play the game. It was packaged also with a removable and washable sleeve. Needless to say, it didn't take long for people to assume there was another use for the trance vibrator. A risque article posted in 2002 describes a couple using it in this unintended manner, and it gained a lot of notice. The game and Peripheral got some accusation implying that this surely was the intended use of the trance vibrator. But Tetsuya Mizuguchi, the game's director and Trance Vibrator's admitted creator, said in an interview with GamesIndustry.biz, "This was a kind of joke, but a very serious joke. No sexual meaning. We always listen to music by ear, and you can watch the visuals moving, the dynamics in res, so it's kind of a cross-sensation feeling. One way or the other, the thing seems popular. Look how pricey they are on Amazon. Wait, other shoppers, And now speaking of Tetsuya Mizuguchi, the man behind Rez has been trying to marry music with games for most of his career. After developing several great racing games for Sega, he made Space Channel 5 and its sequel, and of course Rez. In 2003, Sega dissolved United Game Artists into Sonic Team, and just a month later, Mizuguchi announced he was leaving Sega to start what would eventually become Q Entertainment. At Q Entertainment, he made or oversaw several Lumines games, every Extend Ultra, and a spiritual successor / prequel to Rez, Child of Eden. Even the games from Q, not strictly rhythm or music-based, have heavy emphasis on their soundtracks and or somewhat of synesthesia elements, like Meteos or Gunpei. Gun something. The reason that I personally am so interested in Rez, besides how genuinely fun it is, of course, is the same reason I'm also interested in Mizuguchi's career. He is doing stuff with video games that no one else is doing. Video games are still very young media, or, if you prefer, a young form of expression. The longer games are in the mainstream, the more people start looking at them in the way people look at movies or music. There's a tendency to view the game industry as stagnating, with nothing but the same old first-person shooters and third-person action games year after year. But when a game like Rez comes out, or when it came out, I suppose, people see the games can do more. Even now, Rez sort of sits apart from so many of its peers, and that's a big part of its charm. To play a game like Rez, you gotta play Rez. I recommend you do just that, in fact. It's fairly pricey nowadays on the PlayStation 2 and Dreamcast, but if you have an Xbox 360, then Rez HD is only $10. And you can use up to 3 additional controllers as a sort of trance vibrator substitute in that version too. Thank you for watching. If you've ever watched a YouTube dealio before, you know this is where I ask you to like and subscribe and stuff, so I'll just leave it at that. I have plans for more videos in the future, and I also do a show called Relevant Stuff with my friend Zach if you're looking for something more. Hopefully you'll be back for the next one.